All right, well, my clock says 12 o'clock noon Central Time, so we will go ahead and get started. I'd like to kick this off by saying welcome. So excited that you could all join us today. And this is what we like to call a micro learning session because it's only going to last for about 20, 25 minutes tops. But even though it's short, it is going to pack a powerful punch. Today's session is specifically designed for business owners and leaders in a business or an organization, for their managers, directors, vice presidents, supervisors. And today's session is called What Leaders Say Matters, and it is part of our larger Transforming Workplace Culture series. And this micro learning session today is brought to you by Business Clarity by Design. We are based out of Spencer, Wisconsin. And for those of you who don't know, Business Clarity by Design specializes in organization development and exit planning for business owners and leaders. Our mission is to help owners and leaders maximize the value of their business. And we do that through lots of strategic, results driven interventions. We are certified financial, exit planning, and educational professionals, and we help to elevate your business development by aligning it to growth, financial targets. Really important one is employee engagement and long-term sustainability, and then that clear path towards that next chapter after you transition your business. And just a little bit about me, your speaker for today. My name is Daisy Linville. I am the Director of Learning and Development here at Business Clarity by Design. I hold a master's degree in educational administration with an emphasis on curriculum development. I've worked in public education, I've worked in healthcare administration in the C-suite, and I've worked in organization development for over 14 years altogether. So I'm really passionate about lifelong learning. I'm really passionate about how people's soft skills are actually their power skills. I don't like the term soft skills. It's definitely the person's power skills, and it can give you the cutting edge in the workplace. I live in Marshfield, Wisconsin with my two teenage sons. And then just a fun fact about me, I've lived with my children on Madeline Island. It's an island in Lake Superior, and we've lived there in a trailer in the woods for the last 10 summers up until the end of last summer. So not so much this summer, but just a fun fact about us. So, as I had stated earlier, this is part of our larger group of classes called our Transforming Workplace Culture series. And today is session one, What Leaders Say Matters. And we're actually going to be doing these once a month on the third Wednesday of every month at noon Central Time. So, we hope you can join us for those. In the subsequent months, we have topics coming up such as best retention strategies, coaching conversations, and then finally, policies that protect all. But for today, for What Leaders Say Matters, here are our learning objectives for today's short session, and they are as follows. As leaders today, we're going to understand that many statistics reveal just how much impact my communication style as a leader has on workplace culture. There are actually three universal key communication skills that are really necessary to build trust as a leader. Now, there's many communication skills out there, and many of them are universal, but we're just going to focus on about the top three today. And then finally, we're going to understand that trust is everything. It's so important. Trust can be built and likewise destroyed through how we communicate as leaders. And I'd like to start things off with a quote today. And I love this quote by a famous music for film composer. His name is John Powell. And he says, communication works for those who work at it. And that is so true, right? We are only going to get out of employees the level of communication that you model for them and that you put into that communication. So, with that being said, communication skills for leaders, although it seems very basic, it's actually a topic that's worth revisiting several times throughout the course of your career as a leader. We definitely have to work at communication. And I'd like to start it off with an exercise today. I want you to think of a time when your boss's words either lifted you and made you feel on top of the world, or maybe a time where your boss's words crushed you. What did they say? And then how did it make you feel or how did it make you act? If you're comfortable, you can go ahead and type your comments into the chat, whether on Zoom or on Facebook Live. I'm not really able to see the comments on Facebook right now. I'm going to look at them later, but for the Zoom comments, I am going to take a peek at those. And then again, you don't have to do it if you're not comfortable, and you certainly don't have to say the name of your boss, a former boss or whatever. So don't say that. But think of a time your boss's or superior's words either lifted you or they crushed you. And then a really important piece of that is what were your feelings or what were your actions after the fact? I'll just wait until we maybe get a couple chat responses. We have a great comment here. A positive lifting statement made was, "You are a vital part of this organization." And it made that person feel more vested, right? Maybe more engaged with their employer and their job and feeling more loyalty to the company, I would think. Thank you so much for that comment. Margie says something that lifted her. They said, "You've made significant contributions and collaborations that have had widespread impact, as well as work that has required thoughtful processes." Wow. So they're being specific in their feedback. I'm grateful to you for your ownership and your excellence. Wow. Thank you so much, Margie. We have a comment down here. "When I hear praise from my boss, I want to work harder and put more effort into my work." I agree, Corey. Thank you for that comment. I agree so much. Perfect. Well, lots of powerful comments there. And whether it's on the negative side or the positive side, we can see that the effect that the power of our words has, especially when it comes to those in leadership positions, is crucial for our direct reports. Well, based off of everyone's comments that we just saw, we can say, yes, what leaders say matters to us. But why though? What are the outcomes that are tied to the words of a leader, right? And what we say to our employees to build a loyalty and an excitement inside of them instead of the opposite, right? And this is actually confirmed by some recent statistics. A recent nationwide Interact Harris poll of thousands of employees showed some alarming facts about leader communication. There's some negatives and some positives. First, they said that they found 91% of employees said their leaders lack critical communication skills, and it's actually one of the main causes of an employee wanting to leave their job. 31% say that their leaders lack empathy expressed verbally, and they don't seem to show interest in their direct reports. And 86% say their leaders and executives' words shape their feelings of safety in the organization. Wow, loyalty, and even their stay or go decisions. But on the flip side, we have some really positive findings as well. The positive says that a leader's use of effective communication increases employee retention by up to 4.5 times. And 52% of employees say that they stay in the job because they feel valued, supported, and listened to. Otherwise, they are engaged with their employer. And engaged employees are also 17% more productive than their peers. Wow. I'm sure every company would appreciate a 17% boost in productivity. All right. So, because what we say as leaders is heavily tied to those employees' thoughts and actions, 21st century employees, especially, we're on the cutting edge as employees. Many people are, and they're always formulating in their heads how they feel about their employees or about their employers and their longevity in the company and their workplace culture. And we need to think as leaders, what kinds of messaging am I sending to my staff? Are the things I'm saying in alignment with the mission and the values of my organization? Are the things that come out of my mouth conducive to building loyalty and trust with employees? Are the things we are saying consistently lining up with our actions? And am I unknowingly contributing to them secretly planning their exit? So watch our words. Now, one of my most favorite experts on leadership development is a man named Stephen Covey, and he has a few eye-opening pieces of guidance when it comes to not just what you say to your direct reports, but how you say it to them. So let's take, for example, these 3 best communication practices here, and this is where we are going to be spending the bulk of our time today. He says that number one, as leaders, we want to always communicate with something called enlightened word choices. And I'm going to explain that word enlightened in just a moment. He also says you have to set those clear expectations from the get-go, and you must give frequent feedback and positive reinforcement to your direct reports. Now, we're going to go over each of these 3 practices right now. But first, a little bit on that word enlightened. I wanted to highlight what that word does not mean. What is the opposite of enlightened? It means that you would jump to conclusions, assuming the worst in people or situations, rushing to correct mistakes when your emotions are heightened as a leader, giving inconsistent messaging, maybe saying one thing and then forgetting to follow through. That's a quick way to destroy trust. And then maybe controlling a person or micromanaging them instead of coaching them in a thoughtful way. So we're still on that number one, enlightened word choices. Now, the definition of the word enlightened is showing a rational, modern, and well-informed outlook or to be spiritually aware. So again, we're not jumping to conclusions. We're not assuming the worst, right? So a first point under enlightened word choices is you're going to want to ask open-ended questions to your direct reports and avoid asking the word why. And you'll find out why that is. A poor example of language to a direct report might be to say, "Oh, are you enjoying the project?" Although that sounds like a nice thing to say, what would be better to solicit a more authentic response would be to say, "Hey, what are you enjoying most about this project so far? And also, what has been the most challenging for you?" A poor example would be, "Why didn't you finish this on time?" Kind of sounds attacking. It might put the person on the defensive a little bit. But better would be to say, I noticed that this wasn't completed by the deadline. Can you help me understand what got in your way?" Okay, sounds a little bit nicer with more positive intent. Maybe that person wouldn't be so defensive if you asked it that way. Another poor example, "Why did you do this?" Uh, Kind of sounds attacking, right? Better would be to say, "So, how did you decide to go about it with this method?" All right. A second bullet under enlightened word choices is to use something called we and us statements versus you statements. When you use the word you all the time, it sounds a little attacking, but if you can put yourself into the question as the leader, it kind of helps you to convey that you feel responsible for their outcomes as well. Poor example is, "How do you plan to reach that goal?" But better would be to say, "How can we work together to accomplish this goal?" For example, "You are really taking a long time with this," but better would be to say, "I would love to talk about these estimated timelines and let's see if we can do anything to tighten things up a bit." Okay. So you're still putting responsibility on the employee. They still have to do their job. You still want them to follow through, and you're clearly conveying that they are responsible for this, but you're putting it into the frame. Let's see if we can meet about this. Let's discuss the timelines. Let's see how we can tighten things up a bit. It gives it a little bit better framing. Four would be to say, "How can you fix this?" And better, "What tools and resources can I provide as your leader to help you get this done?" Okay, another bullet under enlightened word choices, you're going to want to always analyze for word choice and tone. For example, "You didn't do this right," but better is, "Hey, I noticed some opportunities for improvement here, so let's get together soon and chat about that." Or, "You didn't get back to me," or "Why didn't you get back to me?" You could say, "I wanted to follow up on my earlier message in case it got buried. I'm just checking in with you." And then finally, this last one, the use of the word whatever, you want to avoid that word. It's extremely ambiguous. What does it mean? Are you mad? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Are you okay with what the situation is? Um, so try to avoid the word whatever. And even if your emotions are heightened, try to be enlightened about this and say to the person, "Okay, I have some thoughts about that. Can we talk later?" Okay. And I love this quote by the team at Franklin Covey Leadership, and I think it nicely sums up the section on enlightened word choices. And they said, "Conversations that start defensively are rarely productive, and people tend to reveal more when the other person seeks to understand them instead of judging them." So great to keep in mind there to help those conversations to start off in a not defensive way. So we covered enlightened word choices. And next, we're going to move on to setting clear expectations. So, did you know that there are thousands of studies that analyze the effect that setting clear expectations has on employee productivity? There are some actual studies that indicate that setting clear expectations can be a number one key predictor to success of a company. So, here's just a few stats. A 2019 Gallup study showed that employees who understand what's expected of them are more focused and they perform better. In 2018, CEO Magazine showed that leaders who define done well, they start conversations early when issues arise and they follow through with accountability, that they see tangible improvements in productivity. And several other recent university studies show that clearly defined roles and then goals for each of those roles that are frequently discussed and referenced, those results in higher results and employee engagement for the long haul. So, in the spirit of setting clear expectations, I want to share a really cool story with you that really stuck with me. This is a story from the book called Unreasonable Hospitality. It's written by a top chef in New York City. His name is Will Guidara, and he his book is all about how to just give the crazy best customer service ever to keep your customers coming back for more. So basically, the story goes like this. There was a young manager at a high-end New York City restaurant, and he once hired a new server who showed up on his first day wearing a wrinkled uniform. And the manager, who was new to leadership and he was really eager to be liked, he didn't say anything at first about the wrinkled shirt because he didn't want to offend the guy or be friendly with him or be well liked. But because that manager avoided the conflict with that wrinkled shirt, weeks went by without addressing it. The server kept showing up with the wrinkled shirt. And over time, the frustration of this manager started to build. And then he felt like he was starting to take it personally. And his mind was wandering and thinking, well, God, this server is so incompetent. And oh my God, he's so disrespectful. He's putting the whole restaurant at risk with his wrinkled shirt. Who does he think he is? And he's just getting carried away with it in his thoughts when he should have addressed it a long time ago, right? Well, one day when that manager was under stress from another situation and then the server made a mistake carrying a tray or whatever it was, the manager blew up at him and said, "What's wrong with you? You know, you're making these mistakes and the thing with your shirt, you come to work every day with a wrinkled shirt. This is unacceptable. If this continues, there's going to be consequences." And then stunned, the server replied, "I didn't even realize that my shirt looked wrinkled. No one ever said anything." And the manager was embarrassed by his outburst and he just walked away. But later, that manager reflected and he realized that he let that small issue fester into resentment. And by the time he addressed it, the message came out like a personal attack against the server. So the lesson here is to don't avoid those small conversations, set expectations clearly and early in an enlightened way with positive intent. And then if you do blow up at somebody or you make a mistake or you assumed incorrectly, you need to own that as a leader, right? If you deliver feedback poorly, maybe you need to apologize or just make the correction and say you'll do better next time. So some lessons that are learned from this story is that setting clear expectations from the get-go is paramount. Early intervention prevents small issues from escalating. Private personal correction respects the individual's dignity. And emotional buildup is bad, right? Do not allow this to rule you. And then just remember, tone matters. Use those enlightened communication skills. Okay, so back to those three communication practices. We covered enlightened word choices. We covered those clear expectations. We're going to move real quickly now onto frequent feedback and positive reinforcement. So just a quick statistic about positive reinforcement and affirmation and praise. 92% of workers surveyed said that verbal recognition impacts their morale, their productivity, and their willingness to stick in a job that they don't even like. If they don't like the job, but they know they're well liked and respected at the job, they're willing to stick around. And 78% said more they would be more productive if they were recognized more frequently. So here are some quick, tangible ways you can start recognizing people today. You could start off meetings with praise, kick off your team huddles by recognizing a win, an effort, or someone's positive attitude. Handwrite thank you notes. This can be really important to a lot of people. They love getting a handwritten thank you note. You could create like a shout out system using a Slack channel or a Teams on Microsoft Teams, or maybe a bulletin board in the office. Set a gratitude routine for yourself as a leader to send out 1 to 2 thank yous per week. Of course, using small rewards like coffee gift cards or extra break time can always be motivating. And then using specific language, really important. Tell what they did and then say why it mattered, because that's a really effective positive reinforcement skill. And then make sure you catch people doing the right thing. Recognize effort in the moment and don't wait for formal reviews. Okay, so these are some top feedback rules as researched and published by American businessman and author Ken Blanchard in his extremely famous leadership book, The 1 Minute Manager. You might have heard of it. He says the following about giving feedback. Make sure you're criticizing the person's behavior, but not criticizing the person. Make sure you praise people in public if you know they're comfortable with that. Praise them in public, but correct them in private. Don't correct people in front of others or criticize them in a staff meeting, for example. Always have that private conversation. Remember to praise people with emotion. Act happy, act surprised, act shocked, act enthusiastic about their achievements. But when you correct somebody, make sure you're not using any emotion, like no anger, that sort of thing. And then provide specific context and be timely in your feedback. Don't wait for formal reviews. Don't wait for 3 weeks down the road. Oh, yeah, I just remembered you did a great job with that thing last week. It's better to just give it in the moment or shortly thereafter. All right. Now, this is a resource that Business Clarity by Design has created for you today as a leader. It's a rate yourself on a scale regarding your communication skills as a leader. I'm going to have my moderator drop the link to this resource in the chat right now, so you can take a few minutes sometime today and just do a little reflection on your own leadership communication skills. So, just a quick recap of what we've learned today. Many of those statistics reveal how important communication is as a leader, so important to workplace culture and even employee retention. There are those three universal key skills from Stephen Covey necessary to your success in building trust as a leader. And then just remember, your trust can be built and destroyed through how you communicate. I just wanted to leave you with a final couple quotes today to inspire your leadership this week. Stephen Covey says, most people do not listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply. And then I had to look this up. He is our 26th president. Theodore Roosevelt said, they really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I don't know if you have your phones handy, if you can take a screenshot of this. I thought this was a great 7-day leader communication challenge. Go ahead this week to your direct reports. Swap five dull phrases like, "Oh, how are you doing?" or "Did you like that?" With those enlightened language pieces this week. And I gave a recap on that handout that my moderator dropped into the chat. The enlightened language, there's the bullet points are in that handout. So if you need a refresher, those are in there. So swap out those dull phrases this week with your direct reports. Schedule a short retention conversation with each direct report, or maybe even just one of your direct reports, where you can give them some positive recognition this week for jobs well done. And then go ahead and observe changes in your employees' engagement, performance, and motivation. So, with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. It is our hope that you found this content valuable and inspiring. Do you wish that other leaders in your organization today could have heard the same content? We offer leadership development programs as a part of Business Clarity by Design. Or maybe you wish that just your staff members could hear something like this, like, man, we need some help on getting our team on the same page with communication, with seeing the best in each other, with even feeling safe to speak up in a meeting or to come out with some wild and crazy ideas to help move the needle in our company. We offer a ton of staff education and development courses for your employees. And just as a reminder, another statistic here, research shows that developing your staff is a #1 strategy for retaining top talent and reducing turnover, which is also then heavily tied to your business profits and growth. So if you'd like that, go ahead and call us and book a free consultation today. We'd love to speak with you. We'd love to help you. If there's any pain points in your business, just give us a call. If it's bothering you, if you think about it at night, if it keeps you up at night, call us. We are here to help walk you through any business or organization development challenge you might have. So with that, we say farewell for now. Check us out at businessclaritybydesign.com. Our sister company also does financial advising, financialclaritybydesign.com. So thanks again, everybody, and hope to hear from you soon. Thanks, Rob. We sure will add you. Take care, everybody.